Hi everyone, welcome to Dropscapes. I'm Chris Tuccio. In this video, I wanted to share with you 3 exercises that have been very useful to me to work on getting better at my sketching and drawing for landscape design plans. That and more after this. Hi everyone, so today I wanted to talk a little bit about sketching and drawing, and I thought to do that it'd be really a nice idea to actually show you a project that I've been working on, something that I just did really quickly for a client on this tablet here now. Although it's not just regular hand drawing in a sketchbook, it just makes it a little easier for me to do it on a tablet for clients. So if you zoom in here, basically I did this in about 15-20 minutes, not even. It was a design that I kind of had in mind for this little residential property. It's just some foundation plantings, and I just I put in a little amelanchier here, a little smoke bush here, and then some hostas, some forest grasses, some astilbe. It's a pretty shady site over here. So again, the idea for this was to just get a concept down. The drawing, after I figured out what I wanted to do, took about 15 minutes, and now it's ready really just for a little color, kind of separate it from the background house, and it's ready to show the client. So I'm able to do this stuff fairly quickly because I make it a habit of practicing sketching, practicing a variety of different things every day. I carry a sketchbook with me, etc. So if you're first starting out, there's a variety of exercises that I would suggest to help you become a better sketcher and be able to do things like this fairly quickly over time. So let's take a look at some of those. So the first sketching exercise that is really useful is actually a quite fun one, and it is a gesture sketching exercise, or sometimes referred to as a timed sketch, in which you take some image, whether it be something that you find online or a picture that you've taken, and you limit yourself to anywhere from 1 to 5 minutes with a set timer to give the representation of that landscape within that time frame. So in this one, I'm using the Chicago Botanical Garden, and I'm doing a quick rendering, about 4 minutes, of this fairly complex scene. And so what this exercise forces you to do is 2 things, is to, 1, get your point across. What are the main features of the composition that you want to showcase? And then 2, to use elements of contrast or contour to really show the main components of that image in a short period of time. So here with this particular image, obviously you have this beautifully sculpted path that brings the eye from the foreground to the background, so that's the first thing I kind of map out. And then you have sort of this frilly material of the plant material in the front, and then you have much more of a structural element in the back, and so within a fairly short period of time you can get an essence of what this landscape might be. Now this is not meant to be something that is representative to a T of the actual landscape that you're doing. You're trying to put in sort of the bare bones of this image so that you can very clearly identify what the main features are. Now, the longer that you have, the easier it is to fall into the trap of actually focusing in on just the details and not thinking of the overall forms and shapes that are making up the perspective. By actually limiting your time, you're forced to make very difficult choices on what to show and what not to show. And you could do this very quickly. You can do 5 to 10 images within a fairly short period of time, like a half hour. So it really is a nice technique to get things going. You really shouldn't use any sort of fine liner. I really love using Sharpies for this type of work, only because they're very easy. They have nice thick edges. You can do some really bold lines with them. And then the other part of it, which is why it's called gesture, you're trying to get the essence of the landscape, the movement of the pathways, the structure of the tower. So you want to set up these relationships in these types of sketches where you have maybe a hard and a soft element, or a dark and a light element. Use the idea of contrast to your advantage to really showcase the idea of the exercise or of the design. The next exercise isn't something that is as enjoyable as the timed sketch or the gesture sketch might be, but it is very useful, and it's called the 100 leaves exercise. So essentially, it is exactly what you would imagine. You take some sort of leaf, and it's better if you have a physical leaf here because you can manipulate it much more rapidly. But you take some sort of leaf from a plant and you lay it in front of you in a particular orientation, and you sketch it. About 30 seconds, maybe a minute at most, depending on the details of the leaf. So simpler leaves will take very quickly. More detailed leaves might take a little longer. And then you sketch it once. And then you change the position of the leaf. And you sketch it again. And so on and so forth until you've done 100 different simple mini sketches of that leaf. Now, what's the purpose of this? Well, it's twofold. One, as I said, it's to try and map out or reinforce this it's trying to reinforce this mind-to-hand neurological connection. You're trying to take what you see and to edit it and to create it, re-represent it on your paper. The other is it's sort of giving you an understanding of how an item, just a simple item like a leaf, is actually being able to be manipulated in three-dimensional space on a two-dimensional surface. So you're playing with the relationships of depth and dimension with a very simple element, and you're doing it over and over and over again until you kind of get the idea of how that shape exists in three-dimensional space and representing that in two-dimensional space. So it allows you to do that. Every about 10, maybe 8 to 10 leaves that you've sketched, you want to take a second, stop, and just assess which line wasn't too confident. Maybe the venation was wrong on one. Maybe the way that the leaf crested over itself is just wrong in a couple of them. So just make minor notes really quickly. Again, a couple minutes just to review the 10 that you did, and then do 10 more. Now, you have 100 to do, so you should be taking breaks. You might not do them all in one day, but you should have it as a mission to do all 100 before you move on to another exercise. And I should say, it doesn't have to be a leaf. You can do this with any sort of simple shape, but since we are landscape designers or garden designers, landscape architects, a leaf is a nice simple object that we're familiar with. But you can do it with other things like a ball or a little box or something of that nature. Again, being able to manipulate it in three-dimensional space will be very useful to you. Don't use very large, complex objects because you're going to get too involved in the intricacies of the object, and that's not what you want to do. You want a simple object, but you want to be thinking about the intricacies of its movement in space. That's the idea. And so it's a very useful exercise for that.
So the last exercise really isn't an exercise, it's more of a habit, and that's getting into the habit of actually keeping a sketchbook with you every day. So, think about even if it's just 15, 20 minutes a day, getting into the habit of drawing, designing something, doodling something down. If you find inspiration in a TV show or some sort of scene that you see outside, anything that catches your eye, jot it down, write it down, do a quick sketch. If you get into the habit of doing it, you're going to find by practicing drawing more, you're going to get better at drawing. And so, I do a lot of different sketchbooks. I have 3 with me right now that I just draw with, and you'll see I do some perspective models on paper on my studio desk as well. But sometimes I'll draw cars, I'll draw birds. I really got into this habit of trying to do forms of birds, little animated characters. This was a nice little sketch I did recently of just a landscape for sort of an illustration that I was thinking of. And then it's not just those kind of large-scale things. You can do mock-ups of perspective. You can do little thumbnails. So these are some thumbnails. I jotted down some notes. Anything to keep your mind occupied. This is another little hardcover sketchbook that I had This was some plant botanical illustrations that I wanted to think of really quickly. I was drawing my dog there. And so I keep a sketchbook with me all the time, and I try and jot it down or draw in it every day. The more that you get into the habit of sketching, the better at sketching you're going to be. So hopefully those exercises, along with a quick show of something that I've been working on, would be helpful to you. If you like this kind of content, make sure you subscribe to the channel and also hit the bell so you get any notifications about new videos. And also check out draftscapes.com, where you're actually going to see articles on landscape design, landscape business development, all different things related to the landscape architecture industry. Okay? Thanks, guys.